Hello everyone and welcome for another video of Love and War Games. In this video, we will take a look at the Heilong Battlefleet set that has been released in January for the Empire. We will have a look at what is inside the box, what are the different options that you can build with it, and we'll talk also a little bit about the different types of lists that you can build with this box. First, I would like just to take a quick look at what is the Empire, like what are their playstyle. And the one thing that is very important and interesting about the Empire is that there is a lot of diversity between each nation that compose the Empire. We have, for example, Chinese that are in this box. They have a lot of flamethrower templates, as we can see here. uh, and they love to use flamethrowers, and this is really important for them, and they play a lot of this. They also play a lot with the alchemical weapons, which the flamethrowers are, of course, and also their rockets. They really play good on that. The Japanese, by opposition, and we'll talk about them in another video, they have very tough ships for their point cost, very efficient, and they're great with submarines. And the Koreans are like the masters of the sky. They have these amazing sky fortresses that are not released yet, so we'll not talk too much about it. But we can see that each faction, each nation has its own specificity. Here, as we said, we'll focus on the Chinese. So what do you actually get inside this box? First, you get the Heilong Strike Battleship, which is this massive battleship that is based a little bit, I would say, on the Ningjing that has been the first release for the Empire as a whole. There are two quite different versions. One of them is more specifically oriented towards boarding, and one has just two giant flamethrowers. You also get, and this is the fun unit of the box, this Tianlong Draconic Colossus, which is this large aerial monster that you can build in quite a few ways. We'll talk about it in a moment. You have one single Chinese frontline cruiser. So you have four different variants, but there is one of them that I would highly recommend if this is your only Chinese force. And then you get two Shanghai frigates, which are these small ones with a single rocket, and two Gong destroyers, which are those with two weapons. The Gong can be built in two different ways, but we'll talk about this in a second. For now, let's talk about the Chinese battleship, which is like the main thing that you want in this box. Like if you buy it, it's mostly for this guy. And well, you would be very right. Do note that they are quite pricey. They are in the upper scale of battleships. They are like around 282 points, which starts to be quite a lot, but they have a lot of good things. First of all, they're tough. They have armor 8 and citadel 16, which is good for a battleship. They have 10 hull points before they degrade, which is good, and then they have 4 more hull points even further. So that is good. That is good. They are not made to be as tanky as the Japanese, for example. They don't have defensive shield generators. What they do have, both of them, is this magma caster in the rear, which is this generator that can be used a little bit like the cryo generator of the Russians. It can be used to summon islands, islands of magma, kind of, to play with the terrain and annoy your opponent, or they can be used to attack directly your opponent. Both cases, they're very good. They also have shadow jumpers, which we don't know what it is exactly yet, but probably it's some sort of ninja or shinobi or something, just flying over to the enemy ships with their little wings and just making a devastating boarding action. I imagine them a little bit like the shadow jumpers of the Nod in Command & Conquer, if you have this reference. But yeah, this really means that they can board further than their enemies, and their what is the name? Their boarding actions have the alchemical capacity, which is very important because both ships have alchemical conflagration, which means that they get both their rockets and their mortars gain devastating, and their boarding actions also gain devastating. So yeah, that is really good. What are the different versions you can have? The first one is this one right here. It's the Ergun, which is the troop transport variant. First of all, it has fray 16, which is very big. We are not used to this amount of fray on ships, even battleships. And then let's remember, you can put escorts, you can put like attached units and stuff to put it even higher. With shadow jumpers, this just is probably one of the best boarding action that you can do of the game, because you will have devastating. That is huge. And it is also a landing vessel, which is very important. Like this little guy can carry a lot of troops. and we don't know the rules yet for conquering islands, but once the rules are known, this guy is probably going to be one of the best troop transports of the game. Plus, unlike many troop transports which are mass 1 or mass 2, this guy can really, like, it's gonna be very hard to stop it if it wants to land on an island. It also has hammer sweep, which is good because if you come from an unexpected arrival, you can really make one big charge forward, and anyway, armor sweep is always quite fine to have. Then you have the other version, which is the Heilong, which is the one that gives its names to its box. And this guy has less troop capacity, that is a little bit sad, and so it cannot land on islands, and it has less fray, okay? But it has these twin flamethrowers, which is just great. At point blank, it is a template, so you can hit multiple ships with it if you aim right, and it's gonna be 13 dices with fusillade, which is great, devastating, and the large torrent template. So needless to say, like, this is going to kill all the things. Like, you can wipe out an entire squadron of mass 1 very easily with that, and if you can also pretty much aim for double citadels on basically every single mass 2 ships that is at point blank. Like, this really will do a lot of damage, and yeah, it's really good. Double citadel maybe too much, but at least a citadel on a battleship would be easy. And it's just good, and even at closing, it's still 9 dice with everything we said, like devastating and stuff. Very good. This Heilong, I would really recommend to put it in strategic reserve. We'll have a look a little bit at the list at the end, but yeah, if these things comes from one side of the table between its movement and its shooting capacity and its boarding, it's just such a big threat on one of the sides, and yeah, just loving this Heilong. Until we have news on how the conquest of island actually happens, I would recommend playing it as an Heilong for now. Luckily, it's quite easy to magnetize both, so you just need to change this little front here, and then of course some of the turrets as you prefer, but yeah, quite easy to magnetize, so do it. And now we talk about the cruisers, and I say cruisers, I should say cruiser singular, because you have one of these ships, and there are quite a few variations. Some of them are really good. It's gonna be tough to choose. Basically, all of them have this flamethrower in the front, and the one for which it's very important is going to be the Jan. The Jan is 95 points, which is cheap. It has like both of these heavy gun batteries, one to the front, one to the rear, okay? And the one thing that makes it very good is that it can be attached to a flagship. So of course, you see where I'm going with this. You put this Jian attached to the Heilong, you put both of them in strategic reserves, and when they arrive, they will just put all their Huaqiang, I guess, flamethrowers all together on the single target, and that's gonna be so much firepower. You can of course adapt to the weaponry of the ship, like do you want heavy gun batteries, do you want rockets, so you can align with what the Heilong is gonna have. But yeah, just this combo is gonna be so efficient, like, and they're gonna be quite mobile because both of those have paddle wheels to turn hard if they need to. So yeah, this is really how I'm going to build my box of Heilong, and I would highly recommend, if this is your single ship, Chinese frontline cruiser ship that you will have, build it as a Jian, because it's such a good combo with the Heilong. The other ones are good ships as well, but this is really like the auto-include combo that I would do. Not auto-include because it's so strong, even though it is quite strong, but because it's just a good combo. They go together so good. Like, do this. It's gonna be a joy to play. The other default cruiser that you could build is the Meru. The Meru is quite more expensive, as you can see, at 132 points. It gets one more hull point, and it gets heavy broadsides. So that is quite good. Heavy broadside makes you want to be a brawler. You can see that it has this flamethrower, okay. It has a little rocket battery here, and it has alchemical conflagration. We talked about it, it makes it devastating. So you really want, if you do make a Meru, and it's not a bad choice actually, you want to put heavy alchemical rockets right here instead of the heavy gun battery, and then you can just pound at a distance with alchemical conflagration. Not a bad idea either, and yeah, it allows you to have 2 activations instead of 1 big activation, and the Meru is a big threat in and of itself. And then you have the Wusong and the Dao. The Wusong is such a good deal. It costs 75 points, and that is cheap. It has Citadel 13, like how? Like, it is really tough. It's hard to make a Citadel breach on this guy, even though it has only 3 hull points in cripple, so it's not as tough as the John. But 75 points, Citadel 13, and even worse, this thing has Flag Barrage 3. So if you want, and this is more something in general that you can do with the Chinese, but the Wusong is really good at this, this is very good to holding your backline, because it will be cheap, so that's what you want to defend your own territory. It will still be hard to shoot down because Citadel 13, and it has Flag Barrage 3, so you cannot just send like a couple aircrafts and hope to have to be lucky, because if a single aircraft carrier sends 4 SRS tokens, which is what they have usually on the Wusong, there is quite a significant chance that maybe one of them will of these SRS token will be destroyed, and then you don't gain a weight of fire for your aircrafts anymore. So yeah, there is a big big case to be made for the Wusong as a defender. Plus, it has Minesweeper, so if you want to use it on the flank or to open the advance for your main fleet, or just have it advancing alongside your main fleet, it also can do that. Like, such good utility for 75 points and such a small ship. I really like the Wusong. The Dao on the other side is much faster actually. It is 82 points, so not that much more expensive. It gains, first of all, this little rocket battery in the front, already good. It doesn't have Citadel 13 or Flag Barrage 3, unfortunately, but it has quite a few things. Like, all the firepower is in the front, so if you put, for example, rockets, it's very easy to pilot, but you don't even have to. It has Minesweeper also, which is good for something that has Vanguard, so you can really use it to clean the mines before the beginning of the first turn. That is really good. And it has Shallow Draught, so this is actually the ship that you want to go forward first of all, and it is good in its role. But that's going to be it, if I have to be honest. Like, it's good on the side, but do you really want this from your Heilong Battlefleet? I'm not sure. If it is like your second or third Chinese box that you buy, maybe start to get some Dao, that's very good. But if it's the only Chinese box that you're getting, I would again recommend the John. Next, let's have a look at the Mass 1 ships that you get. You get 2 Shanghai and 2 Gongs, Gongs being the more heavily armed of the 2 variants. The Gong cost 40 points per model, and you can get them in a squad of minimum of 2, same as the Shanghai, and a maximum of 6. They have 2 forward-facing alchemical rockets, and you can change the alchemical rockets and put instead this thing, which is a corrosive mortar. Both versions are fine, like, regardless of what you choose, they will be efficient. And one thing to note is that you can remove one of the turret with a flamethrower, like a small one. That is quite important and quite interesting. How do you want to play them? One thing to know is that they have Pack Hunter. Pack Hunter is good, and it has Skyfire, which means that aerial attacks, such as the rockets, will be very efficient against air units. I see 2 ways of playing them, like, personally. Basically, every loadout is going to be good. One thing that I would like is 2 alchemical rocket batteries. If you start to make a good pack between the alchemical rockets and the Skyfire, you will start to really do a lot of damage on air units. Even just a pack of 3 or 4 is going to be quite efficient. Or I would say remove one of the turret, put a flamethrower instead, and then maybe, yeah, keep it cheap with the alchemical rockets and just make a little pack of flamethrower units just charging on the sides. Both versions work quite good. I actually prefer them with all the rockets, because with a Skyfire it makes you a cheap-ish and efficient unit to hunt the enemy Mass 2 or Mass 3 that are aerials. They are going to be quite efficient at this. Then you have the Shanghai. They are cheaper at 30 points per model. The interesting thing with those is that you can get them in packs of 8, which is a lot. It has Pack Hunter, so if you do get a pack of 8 with Pack Hunter, it's going to be a lot of firepower. However, they will really die anytime someone manages to shoot at them. They are very fragile. At 30 points per model, you would think they are fragile, but those really will evaporate very fast. And yeah, I like those as very cheap activation. Or if you take a large squadrons, I really would like them to have corrosive mortars, which is what you see there. And yeah, a pack of 8 of those with corrosive mortar, either really well hidden, either in strategic reserve, is going to put a lot of work, even though it stays relatively cheap. So yeah, I really like those. Just don't pack them together if your opponent has any type of blast, otherwise he will enjoy wiping out your entire pack of 8 Shanghais in a single activation. And finally, the funny thing that you get in this box, like the funny unit, is going to be this Draconic Colossus, the Tianlong. And there are a few variants that you can build them. We'll talk about both of those. The common things, regardless of however you equip it, is that it costs 141 points. Then of course a little bit less if you put the generator. It's not a resilient ship, that is the first thing. It is quite fragile, but it is aerial and it has an inbuilt shroud generator. Both of those things make it sure that, okay, it will not die as fast as if it were a surface unit, and it can make a low level strike, which allows it to become skimming and to gain a little bit more armor. So maybe use it quite early, turn 1 or turn 2 at the latest, so you can really use the terrain to make sure that you get where you want to go. And if you start to have a few of these dragons, then you can put a whole pack of those in strategic reserve. They have their own battle fleet that comes with the strategic reserve bonus. So that is quite a good thing. Now, what do they actually do? They want to be at point blank. They have a lot of different types of weapons. They can have flamethrowers in the mouth or a little heat lancet, which is usually a weapon that we see from the Alliance. And in their tail, they can have either a heat lancet as well, or they can have a close combat weapon that will boost their ramming. Of course, they have good ramming with those claws. Now, what do you get? If you keep it as a Chinese unit, and if the Heilong is your only Empire box, or you have only the Heilong and then some Ninjing and stuff, like you should keep it Chinese for sure, because then it gains the attached unit keyword and you can just attach it to anything. But unfortunately, since it is an aerial unit, you can only attach the Tianlong to another Chinese aerial unit, and you will get it soon-ish when the Sky Fortresses are released, because the Sky Fortresses will be able to be either Korean or Japanese or Chinese with their keywords. So that could be a really good escort for any Sky Fortress, especially the bigger ones such as the Jean Madao, because then you have some counterpunch and it's always good. Like both of those are gonna work really well together. Most of its weapons are alchemical or hazardous, and this is what you want to play when you are Chinese usually. And yeah, it has a little heavy battery on the rear. And there are a few ways to play it. Again, strategic reserve, is one of the best way to play it, but you can of course play it with just trying to hide behind the islands. Just know that it will have a big target on its face and your opponent will try to sink it as fast as possible. Another thing that you can build it as, and I will go fast because this is not a Japanese battle fleet, but you could technically give it the Japanese keyword if you later on make a Tianlong battle fleet or Japanese battle fleet. And if you do, the thing that you can do with it is you can trade the gun battery on the top for a dojo. It will gain +7 fray, it will reroll blanks because of elite crew. And this is going to be a ship that does absolutely want to go in strategic reserve because it has virtually no weapons beyond point blank, so it will really want, when it's Japanese, to be in strategic reserves and then to just come from one side of the board and do great ramming and boarding action every turn. And so how can you actually build these lists? I gave you 2 examples. The first is like what do you get inside the box and how you can build it, and I took it as a strategic reserve fleet and how to actually use it. It's quite fun. And then this list on the right requires you to buy another box, but again, it's really good. So in both cases, I went with a Heilong with an attached Jian, because that's the way to go, I think. This auxiliaries list on the list is really good. Like if you take, for example, the Empire starter set with a lot of Japanese ships, this is a very good complement, which will give you a counterpunch, because the Japanese are tough, they have good firepower, but they are not very mobile beyond Shadowhunter, and they don't punch that hard. However, you will be able to tank the enemy with your Japanese and then put this auxiliaries fleet coming from strategic reserves, and that's going to put a lot of hurt. Like those Gongs and Shanghai are cheap, and they will be cheap activations, and they can still do some business. And then you of course have the Heilong, and the Jian, which will just devastate anything. And then you also have a Tianlong. I recommend putting it a generator, for example, like a Fury generator or something. And this is going to be a cheap list, like cheap strategic reserve force for 650 points, and it will do a lot of job. Like if you play at 1500 points, this is going to be very, very efficient. And then another thing that you can do, and this is if you buy, for example, the Tianlong Battlefleet Set, which is a Chinese force that gives you 3 more dragons and a lot more gongs, then you can build this force, which is basically the same, also meant to be used in strategic reserves, also with auxiliaries, because the Heilong really wants strategic reserve. And it's basically the same, but you get 4 more Gong destroyers, which then it's going to be really, really efficient. And then you put the Tianlongs from 1 to 3, and you don't give them generators anymore. Give them like heavy gun batteries, or yeah, probably stay with heavy gun batteries, because 3 of those, it starts to be a very good firepower on top of being amazing ramming and boarding actions. So yeah, 2 versions of the same idea, but this is really how I would play the Heilong for now, like as a strategic reserve threat. And it depends, if you just want the box, go with this list, and if you want a little bit more fun and you like dragons, just go with this list, buy the Tianlong Battlefleet set as well, and just have fun. This is better suited for larger games, for example at 2000 points, but damn, like, the enemy will not enjoy when this drops on him at the end of the second turn. And that's going to be it. Thank you for watching this video all the way until the end. As always, if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. It really helps. Let us know in the comment what do you think about it, or just to say like, hey, good work. It actually helps a lot with the algorithm. And thank you again for watching. And until the next video, please remember to keep spreading the love all around you. Bye.